So this is happening, folks. We know about Prospera, the freedom city that Peter Thiel and his associates started in Honduras, called Prospera. They want to start them here in the United States. Remember, Trump was always saying freedom cities, we're going to have a contest, and whoever wins can build the 10 freedom cities. He was talking about tech giants. Several groups representing startup cities, tech hubs, exempt from the taxes and regulations that apply to countries where they're located, are drafting congressional legislation to create freedom cities in the United States that would be similarly free from certain federal laws, Wired has learned. The goal of these cities would have to be places where anti-aging clinical trials, nuclear reactor startups, and building construction can proceed without having to get prior approval from agencies like the Food and Drug Administration, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and the Environmental Protection Agency. Because why? Because we know that these are the things they can't get approval for, right? It's not going to be safe, nuclear power. It's not going to be, it's going to kill our environment, but they don't care because they're going to live forever with their anti-aging trials. They're going to build these big freedom cities up above all the smog and the poison that they're going to create building them. So us lowly peasants just have to breathe it, not them, not the elite, not the ones that never age. This is the worst version of every single science fiction story or movie you've seen about these things. So, in 2023, Trump floated the idea of creating 10 freedom cities. Now Goff says that Prospera's vision, that's Prospera in Honduras, is to create not just 10, but as many as the market can handle. Because why not? They hope to have drafted legislation readied by the end of the year. The energy in D.C. is absolutely electric, Goff says. You can tell in meetings with the people involved that they have the mandate to do some of the more hyperbolic, verbose things that Trump has mentioned. So, 3 paths forward. So there are 3, according to Goff, Freedom Cities Coalition has briefed White House officials. So there are 3 ways. One is through interstate compacts. In this scenario, 2 or more states could set aside territories with shared tax and regulation policies, with some state-specific carve-outs. Under existing law, these compacts can't be revoked, though they can be dissolved under certain circumstances. If an interstate compact is approved by Congress, it becomes valid under federal law. 2 other options are creating federal enclaves with special economic and jurisdictional zones, or having Trump issue executive orders. It depends on what Trump and the White House want to do, Goff says. Whatever pathway they want to take, we want to help them make that a reality. The White House did not respond for requests for comment. So the Freedom Cities Coalition was created by an entity called Niue Capital LLC, which owns several trademarks for Prospera. Since opening on the Honduran island of Roatán in 2020, Prospera has been attracting tech workers and startups by promising low taxes, few regulations, and a business-like government that considers its citizens to be akin to customers. Its financiers include Prominos Capital, a venture capital firm backed by Peter Thiel and Mark Andreessen, and Coinbase. These are all the people that I always talk about. Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, David Sachs, Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, at the guru-like visions of Curtis Yarvin, who used to watch a lot of science fiction, apparently. They're really into biotech. Chips in the brains, half human, half robot. They like that stuff. So Prospera, so notably, the current government of Honduras considers Prospera in its special economic status to be illegal. And they are right now enjoined in a lawsuit which is ongoing. And the second, so this is legislation, they're trying to open this. In 2025 memo shared with Wired, the Frontier Foundation argues that domestic innovation and production has been significantly impeded for decades by outdated and unnecessarily restrictive federal regulations. Because who cares about the environment? We're becoming half human, half cyborg. This is incredible. These people have such big egos. If we're able to get, so they're considering places like federally owned land outside western cities like Boise, Idaho, Grand Junction, Colorado, and Redmond, Oregon. Try it. Just try. Frontier, they also are allowing private landowners to become freedom cities and allow municipalities to vote to become freedom cities. So this movement has chosen not to focus on revitalizing existing post-industrial cities like Detroit or Toledo. Well, when you're building these new facilities, you sort of start from scratch. So there's so much capital and so much political will, and yet there's an inability to develop these technologies. This is where the AI bullshit comes through. But Gil Duran, a former political consultant and author of this new Substack letter, Nerd Right, warns that building new cities from scratch could have negative consequences. To be outside the law and above the law, what does that seem to mean for the rest of the country, he asks. It seems like you're going to start hollowing out other places in order to have these places where the rules are suspended and don't apply to anymore to certain people. Exactly. So they have an entirely different tax structure. The U.S. would likely pay a similar amount in state and federal taxes as in other American cities. The main difference would be how the cities are regulated. There's one company that stands to benefit from is MiniCircle, a longevity biotech company focused on developing gene therapies to extend human lifespans. Their seed funding came from Thiel and OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. He's one of these guys too, and it currently has its offices in both Texas and Prospera. Also, Mac Davis, the co-founder of MiniCircle, is also working with Frontier Foundation. They want to do their gene therapy. It's like, I'd like a longevity city where everyone and their dog is on gene therapy. Davis adds, you can imagine many other companies benefiting from freedom cities, including SpaceX, the defense hardware and software company Anduril, and Oklo, a nuclear fission startup changed by Sam Altman. So they foster in energy, nuclear, semiconductors, and defense technology, and are not coincidentally ones a lot of venture capital is going towards, as funding moves away from SaaS and digital and internet consumer brands. The theme is American dynamism, referencing a 2022 manifesto from venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz, which argues that scientific and operational excellence of consequential technology companies made up for the shortfall of our flailing governmental institutions. Yeah, okay. And so they need to, they want to revitalize nuclear power in order to sustain their AI data centers, which use a huge amount of energy. So Google made a deal with a nuclear power company in October of 2024, right before the election. That's why he's sucking up. And Meta is asking for proposals on how the company can leverage nuclear power. They're all involved in this shit. They're all involved with this shit, and they're looking for land to tap. But Duran says that the same deregulation could be seen as pro-business will likely not favor those outside freedom cities. Freedom City's ultra-wealthy backers. These are going to be cities without democracy, he claims. These are going to be cities without workers' rights. These are going to be cities where the owners of the cities, the corporations, the billionaires have all the power and everyone else has no power. Yeah, that is what's going to happen. And this is the big push from these tech right-wing billionaires. This is why they want all our data. They want to squash us like bugs because they're worried about us. They hate our numbers. They know we outnumber them so hugely. That's why he's trying to threaten us to stay home. Nobody stay home. We all hit the streets. I will see you out there.